happy Monday, everybody, and welcome back to my hotel's wedding happy hour. And this week we are talking about hotel buzzwords that you should know. So there's a lot to cover and there's a lot of words. So I'm going to go through a lot of information really quickly. But before I do, I just wanted to share with you too, on our website, myhotelwedding.com, you can find an entire list of a lot of different, we like to call wedding words. So everything from wedding ceremony words to reception and so much more. So check that out on the blog and learn some of the words you might not know. So for now, though, I'm going to go through some of the most important terms that I've found in my experience wedding and event planning. And as a reminder to everybody, if you have any questions, just comment in the comment section of the YouTube video, and I'll be sure to either answer them later after the call, or if they pop up on my phone during, I'll answer them then as well. So the first term, which is really one of the biggest and most important, is an RFP. So if you hear people throwing around the term RFP, that means request for proposal. And basically, that's something that you can even do through our site, My Hotel Wedding, where you can send RFPs or requests for proposals to different hotels with no commitment, completely free, and get quotes back from them. This is a very industry-driven term where people will send out RFPs, planners, couples, and then get proposals back from venues, hotels, vendors, anything like that. So it's a really big term in the wedding and event industry. Another one that's big is a food and beverage minimum. And this can be a little confusing at times, and it gets thrown around a lot, especially if you're working with a venue or a place that doesn't have a straightforward package to book. They might say, well, you have to meet a certain food and beverage minimum. And basically what that means is that you have to pay for or pick enough food and beverage to hit a minimum number. So if you do it kind of in an easy way, you have $10,000 food and beverage minimum and you have 100 guests. What is that? $100 per person. I can't even do simple zero math, but that would be $100 per person for the food and beverage minimum. But beware, because sometimes people say there's a food and beverage minimum, and sometimes that can include tax and gratuity. Sometimes that excludes tax and gratuity. So you want to be sure you're asking the right follow-up questions when you're being quoted based on food and beverage minimums. And we actually have a whole article about that on our site, and you can search for it, and that's been republished in different areas. Another thing is a catering manager, and a catering manager has a lot of different titles. They can be a special events manager, a catering events manager, a catering sales manager. So this is the person you'll really be working with the most on property when booking a hotel wedding. And they are the ones who, at most hotels, they'll book your wedding and they'll service it, which means they will be there for your wedding on that day, helping and overseeing and working with banquets and the banquet manager and team to make sure there's smooth flow. There are some hotels where you have one manager who you'll work with until you sign the contract, and then you'll be passed off to someone else who will actually service and execute your event. So that's something to ask as you're talking to different hotels. Is it the same contact that you would be working with from beginning to end? And sometimes this makes a difference in how you feel about the hotel and where you're booking. So that's another one. In terms of wedding day details, as I showed you on Wedding Words, there are a lot of different definitions and words and buzzwords in the industry, but the few that I really wanted to highlight are, as you get closer to your wedding day, you will have your catering manager, social events manager, whoever it may be, ask for your guarantee and your set. So these are really important because your guarantee is the minimum number of guests you'll be guaranteeing for your wedding day. And then your set, a lot of places when you have a minimum of 100 guests will allow you to set for about 3% over what you guarantee. And what I recommend is actually having your set be 3% less than your guarantee. That way you're covered if people no show. So basically your guarantee is your guaranteed number of people that you're guaranteeing. And I say to back out from that, because if there's no shows, you won't be charged more than your guarantee unless more meals are served or more people show up. So that's something to keep in mind for your guarantee set. Another one is vendor meals, and this gets overlooked a lot, but especially when it comes time to budget, you'll want to budget for vendor meals, which are meals for your photographers, videographers, and anybody else that is a part of your wedding day. So keep that in mind. When it comes to parking, I used to get this question a lot at the hotel, was hosted parking. And what did that mean? So hosted parking basically means that you as the host are covering and taking care of your guest parking. Non-hosted would be you're not hosting it, and guests would be paying for valet as they leave your event, or there's partially hosted where you're basically, say valet parking is $8 per car and you're hosting for $4 per each car. So then your guests would pay the additional $4 needed to meet that that amount. So that's something to keep in mind too, and think about as you're budgeting. Do you want to host parking or not? And if you do, be sure to include that as you're putting together your wedding budget. And you can use the budget calculator we have on our website, myhotelwedding.com, and it's completely free. And we help you to budget parking and different things like that. So another one that comes up a lot in terms of terms is the food and the bar. So with the bar, there's a few different ways. So there's a bar package, which basically means you're paying a set amount per person for a certain number of hours. So a venue might quote you a $25 bar package. What you'll want to ask is, okay, is that $25 per person for bar unlimited for how many hours? That could be 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, whatever you negotiate. And then what is the alcohol? Is it the house brands? Is it more premium brands? Is it upgraded? So those are questions you want to ask as you're talking to hotels, and kind of a lingo of bar package, but it's getting into the details. A consumption bar is basically a bar based on consumption. So instead of a bar package where it's a set amount, no matter how much somebody drinks or doesn't drink, a consumption bar means you are charged only on what people actually drink. Now, actually, in my professional opinion, and after working at a hotel for many years, weddings are a time where people drink more than ever. They drink more than you would ever expect because it's such a celebratory occasion. So I highly recommend going with a bar package. Otherwise, you could be shocked by paying on consumption. And even if you have some guests that drink and some don't, the ones that do tend to make up for the ones that don't. So if you have a young crowd that likes to party, go for the bar package. Consumption, I really only recommend if you are having a wedding with no alcohol, or you truly, truly know your guests are not big drinkers. This is really just a way to protect yourself so you aren't scared at the end when you get like a $5,000 bar consumption bill or something like that. It's better to take care of it ahead of time and go for the bar package. Cash bar would mean that your guests are paying for the bar, and that's the same thing as a non-hosted bar. Past hors d'oeuvres are those little itty bite-sized, well, not so itty-bitty depending on where you are, but little bite-sized appetizers that tend to be tray passed to your guests during cocktail hour. So that's past hors d'oeuvres. And then one of the last sections I wanted to go through are guest rooms, and some of the words and buzzwords you hear when it comes to guest room accommodations, because they can be confusing. And I think if you haven't been in the hotel industry, it's like, well, what is a room block? Why would I do a room block for my wedding day? So a room block is basically creating a negotiated rate for your wedding guests. So typically, you're guaranteeing 10 rooms. A lot of the times, you don't have to guarantee those 10 rooms. You are just getting a special rate based on it, and those rooms are available based on availability. And it should be for a negotiated and lesser rate than what is published online, depending on how busy the season is and what's going on. So that's a room block. And we actually have, again, a whole post on myhotelwedding.com about room blocks and how to put them together. And that's something, if you use our hotel search tool, you can get competitive bids from hotels, not only for your wedding day, but for your room blocks as well. And we're happy to assist you in doing that. And a rooming list is a printout of everybody who's a part of your room block. So if anybody books a hotel room within your block or says, I'm here for so-and-so's wedding, then they would be categorized into that room block and therefore come out on a rooming list, which is great because leads me into the next buzzword, which are room drops. So if you want to do a welcome amenity or a gift, you want to put together a little bag or box of like water and snacks and hangover kits or whatever it may be for your guests, you'll need a rooming list, as you'll need to know how many people are actually booked at that hotel, and therefore you know how many to put together and then who you'll be sending them to. And that's called room drops. And a lot of times there is a small fee associated with room drops and those deliveries, just FYI. And then room block pickup basically means how many rooms you've picked up in your block. So basically how many guests have booked rooms at that hotel. Again, it's something to keep in mind as you're doing room drops or anything else, or if you're booking transportation for all of your guests at a particular hotel, then you have an idea of how many people are actually there. So those are really, it was quick. Sped through those those buzzwords for you all. But again, there's a lot of lingo and jargon that goes into wedding planning that vendors and hotels and different people use. So I really recommend checking out the wedding words tab of our website as we go through a ton of different words. If you have questions, feel free to always email us at info@myhotelwedding.com. If you have topics that you'd love for me to talk about in happy hour, I'm happy to do so. So send them to that same email. And don't forget to check us out, myhotelwedding.com, where you can receive free competitive quotes from top hotels for your wedding day. So I hope to see you there. And thank you so much for joining me in happy hour this week. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.